What's up, guys? Welcome to part 2 of our 6-part series on how to make more money fishing. This video we are going to be talking about sponsorships. In our last video, if you haven't seen it, we're going to link it in the top, and we're going to make an entire series out of this. So this is part 2 of 6. Make sure to go watch the first one if you haven't. In this one, we're kind of going to be going over 2 different types of sponsorships. There's more personal and then local sponsorships, and both of those play huge roles, as well as just what kind of fishing you're into. If it's college, high school, or even at the level that we're at, where we've graduated college, so we're looking at sponsorships a totally different way than someone like a high school or college angler would be. So just keep that in mind. There's going to be some things to learn for each of the 3 levels, and hopefully you guys learned something.
What? Why? I think I like it.
Alright guys, so I'm going to talk about the first kind of sponsorships that Ian mentioned in the intro. That's going to be the more personal sponsorships specific to you or your team. And I'm going to mention 3 different levels: high school, college, and then beyond college. So first, starting out with high school, we started our high school fishing team, and sponsorships were absolutely crucial in everything that we did. We couldn't have done anything we did in high school without the sponsor support that we had. And so I'm going to touch on the more kind of bait or gear oriented sponsorships, and then Ian will touch on the other kind here in a minute. So in high school, it's really not super hard to get your high school team sponsored by bait companies, clothing companies, rod and reel companies. A lot of the times, if you just go to whatever company you're interested in, if you go to their website, there will be somewhere on there that will say sponsorships or something like Pro Staff, and if you click that tab, it'll open up a assortment of different types of sponsorships that they offer. And a lot of them, if you just scroll down and find high school or college, you click on that. It's a little application. You fill out that application, and they normally get back to you within 1 to 2 weeks on a decision. Most of the time, especially for high school teams, they're pretty accepting, and it's a really good thing, especially in high school and college. You yourself don't typically have a lot of money, and you don't always want to be begging your parents for money to get stuff. So, and then when you do, you don't want them to have to spend a bunch of money. So these programs are great because normally all that you have to do is throw the company's logo on your team's jersey, and maybe make a post or 2 about them on social media, and in exchange you'll get whatever discount the company's offering. I've seen anything from 10 to 50% on the products. It just depends on what that company personally has set up for their high school and college teams. It's super important. It's really easy. I know that us and the teams we were on in high school and college used our sponsorships as much as possible, and they really helped out, especially once you get into college and you're kind of more on your own. You're starting to pay for things yourself a little bit more. It really helps keep the amount of money you're spending on fishing gear down, sometimes even in half. So super important to get those sponsorships, and also it just helps get your name out in the industry, especially if you're trying to build a name in the industry and work for a fishing company or go pro one day. These stepping stones of high school and college sponsorships are a great way to introduce yourself and you and your friends to these companies and start building a relationship that can maybe pay off more later in the future if you decide to pursue a career in the fishing industry. All right, guys, so I kind of wanted to touch base on the difference between high school and college sponsorships, specifically pricing. In high school, a lot of our sponsors, especially bait and clothing and rod and reel companies, they didn't pay us actual money at all. It was just their logo on our jersey in exchange for a discount. And some of the college ones work the same way, and even some of the ones beyond college work the same way. But as you get older and you get further into the industry, there becomes more opportunity for actual money for you or for your team. So in high school, we received very little actual money from our sponsors, at least from the mainstream fishing company sponsors. Ian will touch base on the local sponsors here in a second and kind of explain the differences. In college, we started to get better deals in terms of we would get a discount on product, and some of those companies would start to throw in some money, and that money would be used for things like travel, entry fees for tournaments, gear, stuff like that, just whatever it needed to be used for, as long as it pertained to tournament fishing and we could prove that it pertained to tournament fishing. Another key difference that we noticed between high school and college and getting sponsorships. In high school, our team was basically run by us and our parents. We didn't have a whole lot of involvement with our actual school. And in college, it's completely different. In college, at least at our school, A&M Commerce here in Texas, they were much more involved in everything. So in high school, we kind of just did our own thing. We went out, searched for our own sponsors, got our own sponsors, and got everything going ourselves. In college, we had a lot more support from our advisors at the school and the school itself. They would actually help reach out to companies for us, help us connect with people, and they oversaw everything that we did when it came to getting sponsorships, getting companies' logos on the jersey, and the actual monetary deals that we were making. So just keep that in mind, especially you high school guys who are going into college. If you're used to getting sponsors one way, it's about to change. It's a good change though, it leads to bigger things, but just be open to that whole process and be receptive to it. All right, guys, and then the last category I wanted to talk about was sponsorships beyond college, whether you're fishing regionally like Ian and I, or you're trying to go pro. There's a lot of sponsorship opportunity out there, especially in fishing. Everything in the fishing industry, especially the further up you get into it, is driven by sponsorships. So personally, I have several, and the relationships with them are everything. They help me out in every facet of my game. You know, I have sponsors for clothing, rods, reels, tackle, everything that you need on the water. There's companies out there that make it, and there's companies out there that are willing to sponsor anglers that are trying to further themselves in the fishing industry. So you always want to represent yourself in a professional manner, and you want to show companies, whether you're on the water or off the water, if you're at things like ICAST or if you're at a local tackle show. It doesn't matter where you are. You want to be professional if you're trying to build relationships with companies and gain sponsor opportunities. And you want to show these companies that you being on their team would be beneficial to them, that you can make them money, that you can get them exposure, and that you are an asset to them. And so everything that you do when you're out on the water or elsewhere is a reflection of you and your character, and companies are going to look for that, especially companies that you already have a relationship with. They're always mindful of what you're doing. A lot of the companies that sponsor me watch my social media. They have like little trackers that they can go and look at your social media whenever they want. So you always want to make sure you're representing yourself and those companies in a professional manner. And the more that you do that, the more rewards will come to you. It may go from you having a 40% discount to a 50 or 60% discount as you work your way up. It takes time, and you can't just expect them to give you the maximum that they can give you right off the bat. You have to prove yourself. You have to prove that you're capable of doing what the company needs you to do, and they'll reciprocate that same thing back to you if you do that. All right, guys, so real quick, just to give an example of what I was just talking about, Omnia Fishing is one of my sponsors, and they have a really great program. And so kind of what I was talking about how if you represent them well, they'll return the favor. Every time I make a sale for Omnia, I have a special link. Every time that someone clicks on that link and buys something, I get an incentive back, a monetary incentive back based on that sale. It's usually between like a 7 and 10% commission, but it varies depending on each company. But that alone helps me and Ian pay for our tournaments, helps me pay for gear. And little things like that can go a long way, especially if you work on, you know, the things that they want you to do. If you work on becoming a better salesman and you sell more gear, you're going to get more money back. So everything that you put into it, you're going to get back if you work hard enough and you be patient enough. So that's kind of the biggest thing with sponsors beyond college. It's all dependent on how hard you work for them, and they'll reciprocate that same thing back to you. All right, guys, so everything that I just talked about is more on the actual fishing side of sponsorships, dealing with actual fishing companies like Yamamoto or Mustad, companies that make fishing products like baits, tackle, rods, reels, clothing, things like that. Ian here is going to now address the other side of sponsorships that's also extremely important, and it's kind of more localized, and it's something that we really rely heavily on during our tournament seasons.
So I'm going to throw up our kind of advertisement for our jerseys that we go out and sell to companies around our local area every year. We typically start about early January, just because the entire process of collecting money from different companies and also getting the jerseys made themselves. It wraps up around March when our tournament season starts. So as you guys can kind of see, this is what our document looks like and what we've kind of fine-tuned over the past few years. We got our pricing at the top, and then as we scroll down, we have some of our tournament achievements from the past few years and just reasons why companies should sponsor us and what we can do for them. As you can see down there, we need to update that. It says we have 223. We are now up to 600 subscribers. 601. So thank you guys for that. If you have not already subscribed, please do. It helps us out a lot. When we get to 1,000, we get monetized and we can start making
even better content for you guys.
Even better content, yeah. We have a John Boat series in mind that we're hoping to do, so yes,
all kinds of good stuff.
Please like and subscribe. But going back into this, our sponsorship is probably split about 50-50 between baits and then local sponsorship. What we consider local sponsorship is us going around, and we personally in January, we walk around to businesses in our area and hand them this flyer and just kind of explain what we do, what we can do for them, and just try to build relationships with people in this community. A lot of the times you're not making money right off the bat with the bait sponsorships, so this is where we get a lot of our money from for the tournament season. I think this year we paid for what, 4 of our
8.
Yeah, 4 of 8 of our tournaments, so we saved ourselves personally probably about $2,000 in entry fees. So it can be a really big factor in helping you grow and succeed in the sport. And if you'll notice, pros, even they have local sponsorships. Sometimes it's just local companies that they've grown up with around their area. But this is not just applicable to high school and college anglers and even ourselves. This is at every single level of the fishing industry and is extremely important. So just to touch base a little bit on how the jersey process actually works for us, since we are just one team, we pay a little bit more. We're about $90 for the jerseys you see here. I fished without a hooded jersey for not very long and just decided I needed a hooded jersey, and we needed that if we're surviving out in the sun as much as we do. So that really critical thing to think about while doing the jersey. But a little bit of the jersey process itself. So what we kind of do, we go around, collect all the money from these companies, and we just keep it in a bank account, and we're slowly just draining it throughout the season with entry fees, gas money, stuff like that. After we're done collecting the money, we put it all in a bank account and get the jersey organized. It's a lot of work. It honestly is. It takes a few hours to do right when you're getting this set up, because you have to collect logos from each of the companies, have to make sure they're in the right files and stuff like that. And it is honestly a pain, but it's worth it in the end when you save $2,000, give or take, on your tournament season. So definitely worth it. Definitely something to look into if you haven't already. And I know this isn't for everyone. I know a lot of people got big boy jobs and they don't need it. But people like us, we just came out of college, so we're struggling with money, trying to find our place in the world, and this just helps us significantly achieve what we're trying to do out on the water. So,
and the higher you get into the industry, if you do go pro, the entry fees just become higher and higher. So even if you have a good amount of money, this just takes a lot of financial burden off your back and allows you to just kind of relax and confidently fish and not always be worried about how much money you're blowing on bass fishing. So,
because it's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most expensive sports out there. So anything you can do to kind of alleviate some of that stress related to the money side of bass fishing is just going to make you a better angler in the end, because you'll be able to think more clearly and be more confident and in a better mood on the water.
That about wraps up this second video in our series. The next thing we're going to touch on is the different technologies in your boat and how that vastly changes how you can fish, how efficient you can fish, and just everything regarding technology and what you need, which you don't necessarily need on your boat. But there's definitely things that help you become a better angler and just fish more efficiently in that next video. But that wraps up this second video in our series. Stay tuned for the third. I'm not sure when that'll be coming out. Hopefully soon, but we just knocked out the first two tonight. So hopefully we'll have some fishing content spread in between these guys. But thanks for watching. I hope you guys liked it. Like and comment, subscribe. That helps us out a lot. Thanks for watching.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine, yeah I ain't taking orders in command.